Before we discuss this topic further, maybe you could explain virtualization for us and explain how it actually works.
The simplest way to understand virtualization is that virtualization is putting a layer in between the hardware and the software so that they're no longer linked. Today, if you look at a PC, the hardware and the operating system and the applications are all completely linked together. So if you change one, you've got to change all three. Virtualization allows you to change any one of those without changing the other two. So you've got that separation between the different layers in a PC.
How is virtualization changing the way people work today?
I think it's changing it in a number of different ways. I mean, the biggest change will be the way people use devices. One of the things that we've enabled people to do is deliver desktops and applications to any device. We've got a technology called Citrix Receiver. And what Citrix Receiver does is allows IT to deliver any of their applications or any desktop down to any device. So they can deliver a web application down to an Apple device, or they can deliver a Windows application down to an iPad. So it enables people to work much more flexibly and use the device they want to use, not the one that the company wants to use. So therefore it enables users to take more power and give more choice about what they want to do.
How do you think organizations have taken to virtualization?
Most major companies have got at least some of their servers virtualized. And what that's allowed them to do is get better return on their assets. If you've got servers that are only running at 10 or 15% utilization, that was a pretty poor use of the asset. And what server virtualization is enabled to do is to get 80 or 90% utilization of the asset by running more on the same server. And that business case is, I think, well understood and is well deployed around the world. What we're now seeing is the same idea moving to desktop virtualization. So as people migrate to Windows 7, they're starting to look at how do we take advantage of virtualization to enable us to roll out Windows 7 and take advantage of wireless technology, and also take advantage of all these different devices that users may want to use, which may not be Windows devices, but allow them to use desktop virtualization to deliver those Windows desktops down to a non-Windows device.
How has South Africa caught on to the trend of virtualization?
Yeah, South Africa has. I think server virtualization is well understood and widely deployed in South Africa. There's no, I think South Africa is as far ahead in the deployment of server virtualization as any other country. I think it's been slightly later to adopt desktop virtualization, but we're now starting to see adoption of desktop virtualization increase pretty dramatically across the country. I think particularly in the last 6 to 9 months, we've seen a big uptake of desktop virtualization. And I think really driven by South African companies starting to look at rolling out Windows 7 and looking at different options they've got for deploying Windows 7. And one of those is to use desktop virtualization to make that deployment much simpler and much easier.
What are some of the major benefits from using virtualization?
I mean, the main benefits are usually around cost and flexibility. I mean, with server virtualization, it's mainly about cost and getting better return on the asset. With desktop virtualization, it's much more about flexibility and allowing the user to work where the user wants to work, where the user wants to work, on whatever network the user wants to work, on whichever device the user wants to work. And so therefore, you've got cost on server virtualization and flexibility and agility on desktop virtualization.
And lastly, what do you think the future holds for virtualization?
I think what we're now seeing is we're now starting to see more things being virtualized. We've got some technologies now where we're starting to virtualize networks. And in the same device, we're running multiple networks and multiple network environments. So I think the advantage of virtualization, I think, are now well understood across a range of different environments. And now we're starting to see virtualization be just used widely across those different environments. And I think we'll see that extending. Storage virtualization, people are now starting to do as well. So the idea of virtualization, I think, is well accepted. It's now about different deployments in different kinds of technologies. And we will see more technologies adopt virtualization techniques over the next 2 to 3 years.